Today, we're diving into a trade deal that is so massive. It's being called the mother of all deals. Yep, we're unpacking the new free trade agreement between India and the European Union. This is a partnership that could connect 2 billion people and really reshape global trade as we know it. So, let's get right into it. You gotta love the branding here. The Indian government itself has called this the mother of all deals. And look, that's not just some clever marketing slogan. Language like that, it signals a huge, fundamental shift in the strategic and economic relationship between these two global powers. And if you're wondering what's backing up that big talk, well, it's this number. 24 trillion US dollars. That's the combined market size this agreement brings together. It's a staggering figure that points to just incredible opportunities for trade, for investment, and for innovation. All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll talk about why this is being called the mother of all deals, the sheer scale of it. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the great tariff takedown, what actually gets cheaper. After that, we'll look beyond physical goods to services, skills, and how people can move between the two regions. And finally, we'll look at the modern rulebook that holds it all together and figure out what this massive partnership really means for everyone involved. So let's start with that big picture view. Because to really get a handle on the impact of this deal, you first have to appreciate the incredible scale of what's being connected here. We're talking about linking two absolute economic giants. Just think about this for a second. We're looking at a combined market of 2 billion people. The deal literally connects the European Union, the world's second largest economy, with India, the fourth largest. For businesses, big or small, this means a much more stable and predictable environment to operate in, which just unlocks so much potential for growth and new ideas. Okay, now let's get to the real meat and potatoes of any free trade agreement, taking down those tariffs. This is where the deal has its most immediate, most tangible impact on the actual stuff that we all buy and sell. So the whole heart of the deal is this idea of mutual market access. The EU is getting rid of tariffs on over 90% of its product categories, which covers pretty much all of its imports from India by value. And in return, India is eliminating tariffs on 86% of its product lines, covering 93% of its imports from the EU. It's just a massive opening up on both sides. And the speed here is absolutely key. Just look at that huge purple section on the chart. For India, this means over 70% of its exports to the EU become duty-free the moment this agreement kicks in. Most of the rest will follow within just a few years. That is an immediate, powerful competitive advantage for Indian goods in the European market. Now let's flip it around and look at the other side. India's approach is a bit more gradual. About half of EU goods will get that immediate zero-duty access, but a big chunk will see tariffs phased out over a longer period, like 5 to 10 years. And this strategy makes a lot of sense. It gives India's domestic industries some breathing room to adapt, while still opening the door wide for European products. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, let's take a look. India's textile and apparel sector, which is a massive employer, used to face tariffs as high as 12% to get into the EU. As you can see on this chart, that tariff is dropping all the way down to zero. This is a game changer. It makes Indian clothing and home goods way more competitive, opening up a huge market. And of course, it's a two-way street. Key EU exports, like chemicals, which used to face Indian tariffs of up to 22%, will also see those duties go away. This is great for EU businesses wanting to access India's enormous market, and it also helps Indian industries by giving them more options for essential materials at a better cost. But, in today's world, trade isn't just about boxes on a ship. It's so much more than physical products. So now, let's talk about services and the movement of professionals, which is really the lifeblood of the modern economy. The scope here is just vast. This deal gives Indian service providers access to 144 different subsectors in the EU. We're talking about things like IT services, business consulting, education, all major strengths for India. And in return, the EU gets a predictable, stable environment in 102 subsectors in India, including really important areas like financial services, telecom, and shipping. And this next point is absolutely crucial. The deal makes it easier for skilled people to move temporarily for work. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about immigration. It's about making business happen. So whether you're an IT pro on a contract, an executive being transferred within your company, or an independent consultant, this new framework just simplifies the whole process of working across continents. Okay, now here's a really fascinating and unique detail in the agreement. It includes a special framework specifically for practitioners of Indian traditional medicine, which is known as Ayush. This actually allows qualified practitioners to offer their services in the EU, which is a pretty significant cultural and economic recognition. It's a great example of how deep this deal goes. A truly modern trade deal has to do more than just cut tariffs. It also has to set the rules for how business is actually done. So this agreement dives deep into the fine print, and it establishes a shared framework for everything from intellectual property all the way to climate change. This is basically a comprehensive rulebook for the 21st century. It's got stronger protections for intellectual property, vital for tech and pharmaceutical companies. It sets clear rules for digital trade and even protects software source code, a huge concern in today's economy. And really importantly, it also locks in shared commitments to things like the Paris Agreement on climate and core labor rights. This helps ensure that all this new trade and growth doesn't come at the expense of people or the planet. Okay, so let's bring it all together. After all of that, what does this massive partnership really mean? What's the bottom line for both India and the European Union? This table really lays it out perfectly. It really captures the win-win nature of the whole deal. For India, it's a massive boost for those big, labor-intensive sectors like textiles, and it's a huge opportunity for its incredibly skilled IT professionals. For the EU, it's about opening up a vast new market for high-value goods like cars and machinery. But really, at the end of the day, both sides win from less red tape and a much more efficient, interconnected economic relationship. And that leaves us with one final and I think crucial question. By creating such a modern, rules-based partnership between two of the world's democratic economic giants, this deal does way more than just lower tariffs. It's setting a whole new standard for global cooperation. So as this agreement starts to roll out, the big question we all need to watch is this. Will this partnership actually redefine the very nature of global trade for the next generation?